Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, one and all. And welcome once again to, well, another good morning walk, although it's a bit less, to be honest, a bit less weather than we had last time. But no, it still should be hopefully a good morning walk this morning. Like I say, you early risers this morning, some nice pony action there. Nice little fold for you. Gotta just dodge. Straight down the middle. Oh, but yes, good morning, Catho G, good morning to you. David, good morning to you. Catholic, ahoy and hello to you. Like I say, good morning, one and all. And welcome to the Good Morning Walk. Like I say, we've got some definitely interesting stuff to talk about today, because, oh boy. Pretty Bird, good morning to you. We've got some fun stuff to talk about because, oh boy, I don't think Kemi Badenoch's going to last long. P, good morning to you. I say, if you've seen, I think you should have all probably seen it because it was trending like crazy. That Kemi Badenoch got absolutely had to face the wrath of the Speaker of the House. That's one thing for sure. Fox, good morning to you. There we go. It was just unbelievable to see from start to finish. But for those of you who don't know, just a bit of background into context so you understand why the Speaker of the House was not only so furious with her, like absolutely furious with her, but why, shall we say, her own fellow Conservatives were furious with her as well. So a bit of background to all this. As you know, the retained EU law bill is currently in the House of Lords, and it does not look like at all that the bill is going to pass. And Rishi Sunak, I think, is desperate for this bill to pass. I think he knows that a lot of his support from the right of the Tory party certainly rests on getting that bill done. Hall, good morning to you. Reagan Leak, good morning to you as well. Like I say, good morning to anyone else that I've missed or is sort of sneaking in the in the chat as well. So he has to get this bill passed. There is no doubt in his mind he has to pass this bill. But he is desperate to keep that support. And the thing is, you know, and I said it in the video as well, I think Kemi Badenoch has singled herself out to not only face the wrath, of course, of the Speaker, but potentially even the wrath of the ERG. And I would not be surprised if she doesn't end up keeping her position for too long. But again, a bit more background and context how about all that came about. So they're desperate to pass this bill, and to a point that the number of laws has started off as 2,000 initially, then we found even more. So it was like 4,300 and something approximately, so over about 4,000 laws. Then Badenoch dropped it to about 800, which is again still not good enough for the Brexiteers, because as we've always said, you know, Brexit's never enough for them in this regard. Then it's now been dropped down to about 200. Not 200, 600. Holton, good morning to you from Liverpool. Happy Eurovision Day. Oh yes, it's Eurovision today as well. So that'll be, at least, you know, we've got something fun to watch this evening. That's for sure. Oh. So the next big thing, of course, is the idea that they're obsessed with having the sunset clause. You saw, certainly in the responses to Kemi Badenoch, that the idea that getting rid of this sunset clause is somehow enabling the laziness of the civil servants. You know, fantastic news, I suppose, for them. It's not the fact that the civil servants are like, no, if we get rid of all these laws, it could cause pure legal Armageddon. It's more that some of these laws are still in there. The Working Time Directive, we know, I think, still in there. There's a ton of environmental stuff in there. There's, again, all this regulation that they want to get rid of is in there. So this 600 laws that are still on the chopping block, still incredibly worrying. Not only, of course, it ends sort of EU law supremacy, which also calls into question previous rulings that judges have made on a whole range of topics, which could cause legal havoc. Also severe questions, what does this do with the Windsor Framework? You know, how is this bill compatible with the Windsor Framework that Rishi Sunak has just signed? There's so much and many questions about this. You know, if Badenoch is such a pragmatist, a Brexit pragmatist, as she's come out in that speech to say, then why not just drop this bill completely? Because it is so bad, so bad that it will still cause incredible amounts of trouble. Just right from the get-go, just so much trouble. So why not drop this bill completely? Well, as we said before, the answer is simple. Rishi Sunak needs that support. He needs that support. And as we've seen very recently, that does bear into it, to be honest. Blind logical thinking. This is all part of their ideology. If we get rid of these laws and regulations, you know, it'll all be wonderful. It'll all be sunshine and rainbows. But as we've described and talked about this before, getting rid of these regulations will have a lot of repercussions. And they're already greatly reducing the number of laws, because a couple of weeks ago we were at 800. We're now down to 6. So it's already reducing the number of laws. It desperately tries to, at least civil servants, shall we say, are trying to save, because they know the chaos that this would cause. So the sunset clause is gone, but because this has already been passed by Parliament, this pretty much amounts to a change in law and change in legislation. Now, under the rules of the House, any change in laws, legislation, or any sort of difference that the government maybe wants to sort of make a change, it has to go to the House first and say, this is what we are doing. Now, of course, Kemi Badenoch did not do that. She did not go to the House first. Instead, she went to the Sunday Telegraph to try and proclaim, this is what I'm doing. That we are dropping the sunset clause to be a bit more pragmatic, to allow more time to have a look at all these EU laws. And as I've always said about this bill, the entire bill is awful from start to finish. It's not just the matter that it's, beheading, or at least putting on the chopping block all these EU laws. It's a ton of other stuff that this bill does that puts into there, which is just as worrying. For the fact that ministers, if they want to get rid of another EU law that wasn't on the chopping block, can, well, just at their own discretion, get rid of it. Which is something we have to worry about. Because let's say for a second, we save the working time directive. Excellent, it's no longer the chopping block. The problem then becomes that Kemi Badenoch, if she wanted to, a month, 2-3 months down the line after this bill has sort of finally passed, been, given royal assent, the problem then becomes she could get rid of it like that. And it'd be very, very difficult because it's been designed in such a way to stop anyone potentially saving these bills. And it is designed to essentially completely cut out any form of parliamentary scrutiny. Oh, hang on. Let's go around the cows. Ben, good morning to you. Kath OG, will the diverging from standards and regulations cause problems with the EU? Absolutely. Absolutely. This would dramatically undercut the withdrawal agreement we've just signed as well. So it's not just that. It's honestly, so much in this bill, it's just so bad from start to finish, because I'm pretty sure it contradicts the withdrawal agreement, contradicts a lot of stuff we've only just signed up to with the Windsor framework. There's just so much that's just wrong in this bill. And yet still, there's this insistence that we have to keep it, that we have to sort of keep on going with this bill. And that's the big problem. The bill is just so bad, on purpose, by the way, on purpose, that they will just keep on pushing to axe more and more EU laws. And I think the worst, and the more that becomes, the worse it becomes. Dave W., good morning to you. Cows lying down in the field. So all that happened, and then of course, because Badenoch had announced this change in a major Tory newspaper, they all knew about it within seconds. Like they all knew about this change that had happened, getting rid of the sunset clause, a big thing that the ERG wanted. Oh, Haggard Shanks, good morning to you. So you had this big clause, the sunset clause, which they all really wanted because they knew that this would also help them, shall we say, get rid of these EU laws as well. So now that had gone, there was an urgent question put to the Speaker before Parliament, to Kemi Badenoch, being in charge of this, that she needed to answer. And of course, you can't back out of this. You can't back out of this at all. And something else interesting that we'd found recently was that, especially because it came out about this, that Badenoch had at least refused 3 times to go before the European Select Committee, or at least the European Scrutiny Committee. So this isn't a minister that is refusing, or at least has dodged, a big panel on this 3 times. So this is quite an admission that she's not going to these meetings, that she's not going to these important meetings that she should be going to. So that was one. Whether she will turn up to one of these select committees, we'll probably find out very soon, to be honest, because I don't think, certainly after a performance there, that she made, shall we say, too many friends amongst not only the ERG, but potentially, from what we're hearing, a lot of other people in the Tory party. So it's not going to be good for her. Look, Loki's children, good morning to you. And then, of course, Badenoch was asked to apologise, or at least address the fact that... Oh, Mitchell and Boo, good morning to you. She was then asked to sort of address the fact that she had come out and gone to sort of the papers instead of going to the House first. And what ended up happening there, very specifically, was that she sort of refused to really accept that she'd done anything wrong. That to Badenoch, what she had done wasn't in any way law-breaking or against parliamentary rules. Oh no, on the contrary. She apologised to the Speaker that it wasn't to his satisfaction. And oh boy, did that set off the chain of events. Like I say, if you get a chance, go see it. You know, go hunt down this video of literally, you know, Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons, kicking off at Kemi Badenoch. Because, oh boy, did he let her have it. And at one point, I don't think we actually heard what she said, because I haven't seen any videos where you can hear what she said, but at one point, she actually talks back to him. Like, oh. Is there a fall? I can't see. Oh yes, there is. There it is. It's very, very hidden. It's very, very hidden if you can see it. But good eyes, though. Good eyes. So this had been like a big mistake, because Hoyle is already annoyed at you, and you make the foolish mistake to speak back to him. And oh boy, did he let her have it. And you can't blame Hoyle, because this is something that keeps on happening. Like, the Tories keep on doing this. And I think you can just see the frustration that he's having to face. That, you know, he even brought it up that this keeps on happening. Why does this keep on happening? I keep on reprimanding you all, telling you, hey, you're breaking the rules, stop doing it, and they keep on doing it. So what do you think was eventually going to happen? So in that regard, certainly Hoyle has probably gained a lot of new fans. And Kemi Badenoch, well, you know, I keep on saying it because of how disastrous these results were. Because of how disastrous these results were for Sunak, I think he's going to have He's very, very bedraggled pony there. I think he's going to have, or at least have to have, there we go. He's going to have a cabinet reshuffle. Because we always sort of see this traditionally when PMs are in trouble. We go, oh, we're going to have a cabinet reshuffle. We're going to have a refresh. And the thing is, Kemi Badenoch, certainly by the Parliamentary Party, as we talked about just last week or even the week before, she's seen as a failure. Like, she's seen as someone who really isn't doing a good job. That she's a bit of failure. There's also an opportunity where Sunak might get rid of Suella Braverman as well. Now, of course, will he get rid of them both? We'll have to see. We'll have to find out who's in and who's out. But I am expecting a cabinet reshuffle at some point, because I don't think Sunak can continue on his current path. I mean, he's got to show. He's got to show that he is on top of these losses, that these losses that ultimately he has been responsible for. He's in charge and he's doing something about it. You know, I don't think, and to be honest, so far his reaction has been to take a helicopter ride, which did not really play well, because it was meant to be an announcement about sort of, you know, prescription services and NHS and pharmacies, meant to be about all that. But that whole announcement got drowned out by the fact that instead of taking the train, which would have cost him, I think someone worked out like 60 quid, instead he took a helicopter that cost him 6,000. P, good morning to you. So he has to do something. And don't get me wrong, the Tories know he has to do something, so they're watching him to see what he does. And the thing is, Sunak isn't doing anything. That's so far from what we've seen a week since massive election losses. Hasn't done anything. That's what's so shocking about this, that Sunak has just done nothing and just carried on as if everything is normal. Meanwhile, this party discipline, which some people are telling us is holding, which isn't true, because I think it's become very, very clear you've got no reason to be loyal to Sunak if you're a Tory MP, especially if you're about to lose your seat. Especially if you are about to lose your seat. So I think his position has become even worse And the fact that this time last week, we were reporting about all those losses. And yet, what's he done? Well, Sunak took a helicopter ride to a pharmacy. Yeah, there was an announcement there about, pharmacists would be able to sort of now provide some prescriptions, which he would hope, well, at least he hopes, shall we say, will take the pressure off GPs. Meanwhile, of course, as has been raised before, there have been loads of pharmacists closing down throughout the country, running out, or at least having very, very short supply of a lot of drugs, because, shock horror, getting your supplies from the EU, which most of the medicines that we do come from the EU, is now become even harder. So I don't know what he's doing. Like I really don't know what his aim is. Where he can just sit there and act as if all is normal, but you can't, because to sort of picture this would be, would me be saying, walking through this wood saying everything is fine. Meanwhile, everything on me is like completely engulfed in flames. And I'm like, no, this is fine. I can't believe he's just sat there for an entire week. Nothing. And the thing is, Sunak will have to do something sooner or later. It's just, what does he do? I don't know what he does, to be honest. I don't know what he does. But if he doesn't move, someone will force him to move. And the question is, how much pressure do they end up applying? And you've also got to calculate into this fact, does Sunak think that he's safe? Does he think that, they won't get rid of him? Or at least, someone wouldn't move against him? Because, they want to keep, in power for at least the moment. I don't know. I mean, the fact that he's just doing nothing is nearly nearly. This is why I pay attention to my footing and not the screen. How do you tie the ERG interest to the consequences of this bill? Sure, they might lose their seats anyway, but can they get their own rewards after? To them, it's all about getting rid of as much regulation as possible. That's what they're all about. That's why they want this bill. That's why the bill was, as well we said, why the bill was crafted. Oh, David, good morning to you. It was crafted to, on purpose, get rid of as much regulation as possible. Didn't matter what the regulation was, they just wanted to get rid of it as much as they could and have an instrument and have a way to get rid of any other EU laws that they don't like. I mean, after all, if you've seen one of the things that the Sun came out with about this, that they've kept the dreaded bendy banana regulation. And that was, to be honest, quite funny that they've kept this. We've always said, this, rules and regulation are there for a reason. And most of it is, and that one in particular, is for classification. Because what makes something a banana? You know, if you have a banana magnet, is that a banana? You know, as silly as it may sound, this is what companies have been doing for years, using all kinds of crazy loopholes in trading rules, laws, and regulations, you know, to get away with paying a little less tariff, a little less stuff. And yeah, that's why those types of rules and laws exist, because it's all about. Oh, hang on, let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. Oh, almost. Oh. There we go. Hang on. There we go. We're across the worst of it now. So I can't wait till the weather warms up a bit more and it dries out this path. Because this is why we don't go normally this way, at least during the really bad winter months. Because honestly, this path is just an absolute nightmare to swamp through. Yeah, the Barnsley Everglades. And I just want to bring it back to ideology again, because this is what it's part. All that bill is part of their ideology, that if they can get rid of regulation, it'll all be fantastic. But the thing is, this bill, if they get rid of some regulations, it's going to come back and bite them. Some of this stuff is going to come back and bite them so hard. And if I was Labour, I'd be watching what regulations do get cut, do get gotten rid of, and I'd be watching very closely and making sure that these rules and regulations get reinstated, because if we don't, well, this could cause a lot of problems. Good morning, Sabine. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone else as well. Like I say, please do remember to click the like button as well, and the share button as well while you're here. But that is the big problem that emerges then. Because some of these are going to be very, very unwell received. I mean, the flight compensation one in particular, that could be, that is not going to go down well if that passes, if that gets cut. The idea that you don't have, you know, your flight compensation if your flight gets cancelled or something like that, that's not going to go down well at all. And yet this is the kind of stuff that they're trying to get rid of. Meanwhile, they're also still getting rid of a ton of environmental protections. So we saw, obviously, last week, the animal rights, animal testing now being allowed once again in the UK, with every single company to do with sort of beauty products wrote a letter saying, hey, we don't want this to happen. Why are you allowing this to happen? Why have you undone this? This is bad. And yet we're told that apparently these companies do not want this regulation. Yet 60 of the world's biggest brands, when it comes to beauty, write to you specifically and say, please do not do this. Oh yeah, they're listening to businesses. No, it's all part of this ideological train that they always go on. always of, if we get rid of regulations, if we get rid of government regulations on this area, wherever, it's all going to become very, very hunky-dory. I mean, the Edinburgh reforms, that's a very, very big, scary problem as well, because that gets rid of a load of financial protections that are involved with defending, or at least making sure that banks play by the rules, that they don't start doing silly stuff that they started doing in the 2008, or at least in the lead up to 2008, and what caused the 2008 financial crash. That is very, very worrying, the fact that all those rules and regulations are gone. Because you had Donald Trump, if you saw his disaster of a town hall on CNN, just that wasn't good at all. Donald Trump seriously suggested that it would be good for the US to default on its debt. I am not joking. Trump actually said that the US should on purpose default on its debt and would plunge not only the US into financial chaos, but it would plunge the entire world into financial chaos. And yet, Sunak has undone a lot of financial protection regulations, which would maybe help make sure that people didn't lose their money or their savings or deposits that they've made because of that. I mean, what on earth? I mean, and the thing is, I don't know if Trump understands like the difference between like a personal bankruptcy and the difference between an entire country like deciding it wants to default on its debts. Because there is a massive difference. There is a massive difference. You know, we're not talking about personal debt. You're talking about an entire system in the world just imploding if he becomes president and decides to do that. I mean, it's honestly stunning that people still think that he's some sort of incredible genius and smart move. And his answer on Ukraine as well. Oh, yeah, I'd sort this in a day. Donald would be out there, I'd be sorting it in a day. It'd be done. And then, and the problem was the interviewer. The interviewer, if you've got someone like Trump, Tom, good morning to you. If you've got someone like Trump, or like you were interviewing someone like Trump, you have to be sort of mean and you have to sort of really hold them to the fire. You have to really hold their feet to the fire. And she really didn't. And she was sort of very, 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 very passive and let a lot of his comments and stuff go. It was, honestly, it wasn't a very good town hall. And then you get into talks about responsible platforming and things like that. And again, I don't think CNN had, or at least in that regard, was very responsible when it came to that. They needed a lot stronger interviewer, to be honest, to deal with Trump. Or maybe she might have been told to handle Trump with kid gloves. We don't know what she might have been told, but Yeah, that was not a good interview. And the fact that Trump thinks it's a good idea to just default on America's debt. Yeah, oh boy. And I'll tell you now, last time we were in a world financial crisis in 2008, a crisis which we are still recovering from. Part of the reason why we're able to recover was because we were in the EU. This time we're not. If another big world financial catastrophe happens, especially on something like this, like 2008 scale, it's going to be very, very bad for the UK. Very, very bad for the UK. Wash a bit of this mud off. Yeah. But yeah. Oh yeah, because they're entering into a negotiation about all this debt ceiling stuff at the moment, aren't they? You are right, Sabine, about that. Yeah. Well, like I say, even if the Republicans want to continue doing that, if they crash the economy, then it's their fault, because they thought it would be a good idea to mess with this, to hold something that's very, very important like this, against the Democrats. Yeah, not a smart move, guys. Not a smart move. Playing chicken with the entire US economy is not a smart move. It is not a smart move at all. But it's something they think they can do and they can get away with, and they'll be fine. One of the biggest problems I think you see in American politics is I don't think you see strong enough Democrats really fighting back against the Republicans. Like, they don't understand that the Republicans are their enemy, and instead they see this whole idea that we can work bipartisan with the Republicans, we can work together. Meanwhile, the Republicans have got them literally in a headlock and are about to, flush their head down the toilet. But meanwhile, the Democrat in the headlock is still saying, while he's being flushed, oh, we can still work together. We can work together in the spirit of bipartisanship. Trust me, if I was an American, I would be screaming about that non-stop. Oh, Vaughan, good morning to you. And then, of course, that's a good point, actually, because Shanks had brought up Van Man. Yeah, those checks for the border still potentially on. Those checks at the border still potentially on, but I'm highly skeptical, and I think Kemi Badenoch's going to have to pull them. I am very highly skeptical that those rules and regulations will, especially when it comes to the border checks, will pass. I am highly, highly skeptical that will be the case. So I don't think even Rishi Sunak is dumb enough to bring in these checks, knowing the kind of chaos that it would cause, especially for the reason why Mog undid them last time. But ultimately, this would not be good. And I'm still very much in favour that they're going to get to like 2-3 weeks before the deadline that they're meant to be these checks are meant to be coming in, and I'm quietly confident that they're going to be skipped again, pushed again, back another year. Yeah, Badenoch will serve as a fuse. That's very true. And in that entire, again, circling back round, in that entire debate, he seriously, I was surprised that she was claiming her personal responsibility. I'm not sure if she's trying to sort of draw flack away from Sunak. Oh, but Cathode G, thank you very much. Yeah, do not Google. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, that's not very. Yeah, it would be a very bad start to your weekend. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie about that. Oh, but yeah, to bring this back full circle to where we began, starting to talk about that retained EU law bill. It's getting watered down more and more and more because they're realising if they do some of this stuff, certainly it's not going to play well with voters. It plays right into Labour's hands, saying, well, we're going to bring in this law, we're going to bring in this, and oh, by the way, guess who got rid of this? It was the Conservatives. They can say it was an EU law all they want. But the thing is, they are getting rid, especially when it comes to the working time protections, the flight compensation. They're getting rid of what are actually a lot of very, very popular EU rules, laws, and regulations. It will come back to bite them, absolutely. And Dave, it's not the best angle. Tiny fall. So yeah, it could prove very interesting. I think the more they want to try and get rid of this, the worse it becomes for them. Yeah, exactly. The EU employment law protections, so much if they change a lot of those, that is going to cause a massive outcry if they start really flexing. And I think you are right, they're starting small and they're going to sort of work, shall we say, chip away at them. And I think the more they realise, the more that they're going to be in opposition. And I think they realise the more desperation they're going to try and, well, get away with chipping away at things like that, which isn't going to be good. Morning. Right? Yep. Oh. But yeah, we are keeping our eyes on this retained EU law bill, and especially what Badenoch might do next. And especially, we've got to keep an eye on what Rishi Sunak's going to do, because the idea that he's just sat there for a week and done nothing. Yeah, the Tories were just delaying that Labour deal with the checks. It's potentially what might happen. You are right. That is something they may try and do. Because like I say, we've always said it's one of the things about this, and this is something that's very worth, I think, bringing up. The fact that it's easier to repeal a law than it is to pass one. So you've got to remember, a lot of these rules, regulations and protections that are going to be gotten rid of if we get a Labour government or a coalition government trying to repass these laws, certainly is going to be harder. because you're going to have the Tories fight tooth and nail, keep on putting in amendments to try and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to repass a lot of these things. And we've said it before. A lot of the people do not really realise all the rules, laws and protections that have come in because of the EU. And yet there's going to be a lot of people very shocked when all of a sudden their bosses turn around and say, oh yeah, by the way, you have to work overtime. By the way, you have to stay behind 4 extra hours today to work overtime. Or, you know, a lot of like worker protections that they had been very, very used to suddenly are gone. There's going to be an awful outcry, that's for sure. But getting back some of these rules, laws and regulations, unless we join the EU, is going to be very difficult. Going to be very, very difficult. Because I've said before, any attempt to rejoin the EU would be very, very easy. A lot of people say it would be hard, but it would actually be very, very easy, because all you do is you pass an EU alignment bill. Bear in mind, this is what we did last time to with the Maastricht Treaty, the Lisbon Treaty. We've signed a lot of these things to bring ourselves into alignment with the EU. So that's not hard to do. It's just really brings the question of outside, it's a lot harder to do. James Dyson has been slagging Sunak off for neglecting the tech sector. Yeah. That's it. They've got no intention of supporting any of these sectors or anything like that, because it's not in their mantra. They do not support sectors like that or anything like that, because it's not in their mantra. It's not in their ideology to do so. You may remember we went over the thing a couple of weeks ago about a Tory saying we need to support strategic industries. And yet that came from a Tory saying that. But normally, Tories like, no, we can't subsidise industries. We can't do anything like that. Yeah, it would be really hard. The EU would want us back, though. I can't see many countries being welcoming. Again, people always say that, but there aren't too many ways I see many countries that would outright reject us. I really do not see that. I think if you had a change in a very pro-EU government that was sort of willing to accept concessions and things like that, I think the EU would be very welcoming back. And you've got to remember, back when we were originally trying to join, and it was like Charles de Gaulle, who was like the big vetoer, who kept on vetoing UK membership, he was looked at every single time he did that as being very, very bad. I would also like to remind you, no other country currently that's currently on like the slate to actually join the EU is being rejected. Like, maybe the ones that aren't joining is because they're not like fully aligned, or they're not ready to join yet, but no country is really being vetoed. And remember, Brexiteers said this afterwards, and a lot of talk you heard like that of once we'd left, that we wouldn't be allowed to remain in like the single market customs union. And there was this big kerfuffle, that Norway and Iceland, these countries wouldn't say whether or not they would join us, but eventually they turned around and said, oh no, actually, if you want to stay in that, fine. So it's not as anti-British feeling, I think, as people tend to say. I think it's just saying it for saying its sake, shall we say. Yes, yeah, I think that's the case. I think that's the aim we need to go to, rejoin the single market customs union. I think that's the aim we need to go to be honest. So, we've come to an end of our Good Morning Walk today. I will be tomorrow. I will be on the Sunday brunch. I did a recording of it on yeah, I've done the recording for it on Thursday. I think, was it Thursday? Yeah, did the recording of it on Thursday. So yeah, I will be on that tomorrow. So go check that out. The Sunday, no, not the Sunday brunch, the Sunday roast. I can't remember what we call it now. But yes, I'm going to be on there tomorrow on Sunday. So watch out for that. And as always, like I say, please do remember to click on the like and share button on your way out. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Go out, enjoy yourselves. And as always, if you can't be safe, be sensible. And we will see you very soon next Saturday on the Good Morning Walk. So until then, we'll see you all very soon.